conceptual perspective. Things people talk about a desire to be successful. All of the elements they think intelligence.
Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace here, dropping in on you this morning. It's about 6:44 here. I'm in the middle of my morning in the way that I operate. I've been up for a couple of hours, a little over a couple of hours. And I know this is normally the platform and channel on which I normally bring positive, inspiring messages and encouraging messages and lessons about life. And I promise I'll be back a little bit later this morning to do that. Normally I would share what I'm sharing here live through live stream on my YouTube channel. But being the to share it on a place where I think more people will probably actually catch it. And then I'll transfer it over to my YouTube channel. Known me personally or followed me over the years are aware of the work that I do business-wise, and more than likely what I do in the community and my commitment to being a part of the solutions for problems within the Black community. It has not been a secret. It is my passion. It is my love. It is an intense focus, and I have done it through direct engagement. I've done it through at the most micro level. I've done it with books and lectures and again, direct engagement. I have boots on the ground. I am constantly engaging and dealing with people who are going through some unbelievably horrific realities, and the world is just passing by without any type of care or concern. Well, my intent in 2020 is to intensify my position in being a difference maker. It comes with unbelievable challenges. It seems that when you choose to do right, when you choose to engage and actually answer and respond to problems with solutions, you get more pushback. It's okay if you just talk about it. It's okay if you just lecture on it. But when you start trying to literally be a difference maker, you will be surprised, not only at the level of opposition, but where that opposition comes from. And I'm not going to get on that because that's not why I'm here this morning. But I would encourage those who are really serious about doing something different to become a part of the solution, which isn't simply just talking about it on platforms like this. As a matter of fact, it's about what happens after today, what happens after this message, what's going to go down, how are we going to stop our little girls and boys from coming up missing, especially our little girls. And that's the primary thing I want to talk about here now. But we do so much at the Odyssey Project, which is the organization through which I do my work in the Black community. But I want to talk about this. Beyond the work I do, it's so much bigger than me. It's so much bigger than me. And I want to really challenge everybody that views this video this morning to share this video with someone, not for the purpose of shares or likes, but for the purpose of educating our people as to what's going on around them. We're not very good, or we're not very receptive to numbers and studies and information and facts because it interferes with the way we feel. We are operating on an illusion that everything is okay, that we're safe, that, because we're not like our less educated brothers and sisters, our less fluid and successful brothers and sisters, that because we're not like them, we're not susceptible to what they're going through, and you're missing the big picture and you're not seeing far enough down the road. And it is also representative of a highly individualized mindset that does not serve you or the world in the long run. I have written, spoken, did radio interviews on the epidemic of sex trafficking and human trafficking around the world. I have talked about the fact that sex trafficking has leapfrogged dope dealing. Well, not dope dealing, dope trafficking, drug trafficking, as the number 2 largest industry, economic and financial industry in the world, outside of gun uh, trafficking and weapons trafficking, or whatever you want to call it. Human trafficking is next, and the vast majority of human trafficking is sex trafficking, and it's on a global scale. And the United States plays a major role in it. Obviously, that's not something that the people in this country want to admit, but we play a major role in it. And it's not in just abducting young children and sometimes women, but in shipping them off to some uh, third world country where they're going to be put into, different forms of servitude and slavery and sex trafficking. But it happens here. There's a huge market for sex slaves in America, working in all types of places that some pretty prominent people have been recorded visiting on more than one occasion. We live in a world where we want to believe in the standard of morality that's preached to us, but we don't observe the way that those that are preaching it are behaving. And I'm speaking so far outside of the church right now. I just used the word preached, so don't get caught up in that. What I have a problem with, and the thing I want to talk about specifically today when it comes to 75,000, you've probably seen this thing floating around that's been actually floating around for years. First time I think I saw it was in 2014, where it says 64,000 Black women are missing in America. That was then. That number has grown past 75,000, and it's still growing. And the abductions and of our Black women and Black girls is increasing. And we are not taking it nearly as seriously as we should. We have a bad habit of waiting till something falls on our doorstep personally before we actually get involved, or before we take it seriously, or before we want to become active. We tend, because we've been trained and conditioned to behave individually, and we are individualized in our thinking, we tend to always see things through our eyesight. So if it's not bothering us, we'll say, oh my God, shaking my head, all these different things that we like to put on the comments. But actually becoming involved, actually sitting down at a table to be a part of a solution, actually, without actually sitting up and saying, how are we going to train our kids to be safer? How are we going to create environments for our kids to be safer? The problem I have is that we're operating with a system that is quantifying our kids, and we tend to do it ourselves as adults. We're quantifying qualifying the humanity of our children based off of their GPAs and their academic status. In other words, a child becomes worthy of searching for and feeling sorry for and having empathy for when they are an A student and they were very, very accepted in the school, and they were popular in the school, and they were the ideal student. All of a sudden they have value. Well, we better start understanding that it's our children, even those who are troubled, even those with 2.0 grade point averages, those who have been suspended a couple of times, those who are still struggling to find their way, have value. We're going to have to stop qualifying whether or not our children deserve our protection based off of them meeting some standard issued by a Eurocentric idea of what is. It is time for us to wake up. Black men, we need to start patrolling our areas. We need to take it seriously. We should be looking for white vans. We should be looking for women Get this, women are used to lure these girls and young women away from safety and into harm's way. Often look for them, and when you find them, deal with them. I mean, any enemy of our children and our women is an enemy of us, and all bets are off. And it needs to be understood. There needs to be a message sent that if we catch you messing with our babies, we're going to mess with you. And that is that simple. As men, it is our ultimate responsibility to make sure that the elderly, the women, and the children in our communities are safe. It is our responsibility to take every infraction and infringement upon their innocence and their security, to take it personal. I'm looking and I'm reading too many stories, and I'm getting too many calls and too many emails that are telling me my baby's been missing for 2 weeks and the police aren't helping, the police aren't looking. And and it's because she got in a little trouble and they're just writing her off as she ran away. Uh, and the truth is that sometimes children do run away. There was even an instance where a young girl in New York, I believe from Honduras, who, faked her own kidnapping because her mom was talking about moving back to Honduras and she didn't want to go. She wanted to stay where her boyfriend was. So she faked her kidnapping. That happens. But that does not in any way set the standard of how we're going to deal with our kids. If a kid is missing, we have a responsibility to find them. Even a kid that has run away before, we still have a responsibility of making sure we know where that person is. And if they're not of age, to bring them back and do whatever we can to create a safe environment until we no longer have the authority and responsibility of taking care of them. We cannot sit up and allow a system to say, because based on our standards, they're a bad kid, we're not wasting our resources to look for them. There has to be some preemptive strategies based on a need to address this issue on the front end, meaning that we as a people, predominantly Black men, but women who are thinkers and action takers, they need to be on sitting at the table, but we need to be on the front line. We need to be monitoring and looking after our babies. We need to be walking malls. We need to be walking communities. We need to be strolling around stores like Walmart where this is happening a lot. We need to have a presence and we need to be ready to act, because we can't sit there and dial 911 and think they're going to get there in time to stop something from happening. We are going to have to be the front line defense against our babies and our women being assaulted and attacked and kidnapped and pushed off into a life of servitude and sexual abuse. That's our responsibility. We cannot fail at this. Black men, speaking directly to you, we cannot fail at this. It is absolutely unacceptable. On the back end, we're going to have to be the ones that initiate the process of searching for these babies. We're going to have to use technology. We're going to have to use old-fashioned boots on the ground, searching and looking and finding. We're going to have to be able to find some people who are highly technical in digital forensics, so we can look through their records, phone records and social media records, and develop a pattern and find out, basically all the work that should be being done by law enforcement. We're going to have to train ourselves to do. We can't leave our babies to chance. We can't sit up and pretend that everything's going to be okay. We have too much history of seeing our people being failed by the system to believe that all of a sudden the system's going to come through for us and they're going to help us deal with this issue where our children, more than any other group of children, are being targeted by these human traffickers. We have to be aware. And in this human trafficking, yes, the biggest part of it is sex trafficking. Another part of it is servitude. They're being sold into sweatshops. They're being sold to wealthy people in and out, inside and out of America. Yes, that stuff is actually happening in America, and you don't know it because they look like a paid house employee or whatever they have them, or they're in some sweatshop hidden somewhere that nobody knows exists, and they're working here in America. And it happens abroad. We have to understand that that's happening. Sex trafficking is happening. Servitude is happening, but also organ harvesting is happening. And our genetic makeup as blacks make us ideal for organ harvesting. You need to do the research on that. It's definitely happening. There's a reason that certain bodies are showing up in bodies of water and other places and supposedly drowned, but their organs are missing. We have to be aware, and we have to walk around with an alertness and awareness of what's going on in the world around us and what we need to do about it. We can no longer walk around with our head down. We can no longer walk around sitting and behaving as if everything is okay. Again, I want to stress, I don't care what a child's GPA is when it comes to them being treated as being human and a child. Their GPA is not a qualifying factor in whether they are human or whether they are a child. They are a child and they are a human, and they deserve the attention of the masses when they come up missing, when they come up harmed, when there's obviously signs and signals that something isn't right. They deserve the attention of the people who have the ability to change their lives, to fix their lives, to save their lives. That's our responsibility. We have to stop sitting back and waiting on problems to fix themselves or a broken system to actually start working. I'm tired. And I'm not saying this for anybody to stop sending me requests for help. That's not why I'm saying this. I'm saying this because we've got to do better. I'm tired of all of the emails that come in of our babies. And that's, I mean, and then that's the girls on the sex trafficking side. But on the boys' side, our boys are slipping through the hole when it comes to mental health. Our boys are suffering and struggling. A lot of that has to do with the fact that we have a big gap in presence when it comes to black men. We got 1.5 million black men that are missing in the black community as a collective across this country. And that has an impact on the development of black men. That's why we work so hard with Black Men Lead as a part of a rite of passage program, but also as a part of a developmental program in the sense of mental health and self-awareness, self-identity. And we've got to deal with it. I'm getting so many calls of mothers, predominantly single mothers, who are at wit's end about what to do about their son who is moving rapidly towards adulthood and about to fall into a meat grinder about age 17 and 18, when the system is just waiting to chew them up and spit them out and leave them for dead, or to create a cyclical process where they will be in and out of institutions their entire life. And it's our responsibility to take action. We've got to stop writing off our kids. We cannot use qualifying factors given to us by our Eurocentric opponents, oppressors, or whatever you want to call them, and judge our kids accordingly. If our kids are having problems in school, they're still our kids. If our kids are sitting up and struggling with behavior, they're still our kids. If our kids have gotten caught up in a wayward way with drugs, they're still our kids. We can't afford it. They're not throwing their kids away. They're putting their kids in group homes. They're getting their kids all type of help. They're giving their kids resources. Their kids have access to all resources, the things that we don't even know exist as a resource their kids are having. They're not throwing their kids away. They're protecting the worst of the worst. This kid, Brock, whatever his name is, out from Stanford, was on the Stanford swim team, found a woman that was drunk, passed out, pulled her behind a dumpster and was raping her and got caught in the act. And the judge gave him 3 months and said that he didn't want to sentence him to prison because that experience would totally destroy his future. But you're shipping black men to prison in droves. They're telling you how they're going to act. They're not going to throw theirs away. They understand that there's literally a war going on. Whether we acknowledge it, it doesn't change the fact that it's happening. They're not throwing it. I'm not saying condone poor behavior. Absolutely not. We must have a code of conduct within the black community that holds every man and every woman to a standard. And when we violate, there has to be a consequence to violating the code. But what one of the codes has to be is we don't throw our kids away. We fight for our kids. That's our responsibility. We created this. We brought them into the world. It's our responsibility that they don't enter the same challenges we enter. We've got to change things so that they have a better chance at getting further than we got. We can't throw them to the wolves because they are targets now. They're seen as our future by others more than we see them as our future. And we have to protect them. I'm tired of getting emails and phone calls telling me my daughter's been missing for this long and nobody's helping. Everybody's just saying A, B, C, or D. And I've been looking, and and I'm seeing it, the stories even when they're not contacting me. When I'm just looking at what's going on in that area and how many girls are missing, and I'm sitting up and I'm looking at it, and these people aren't getting the support they need. They need to have somewhere they can come and actually initiate a process where if the system isn't going to help you, we're going to help you. That goes for babies who are missing in the field or abducted, as well as young Black children, men, boys and girls, but we have a real problem with boys when they're having mental health issues, when they're having a mental health crisis. We need to have resources available. We need to be prepared to give them what they need and not depend on a system that has proven that it does not care. The only time our men are guaranteed, and it's still not a guarantee, but the best chance our men have of getting some type of mental health resources is after they've been arrested and incarcerated. And then they can get connected with MMHRA, and then they can sit up and start some processes. They will treat you then, but now you're a part of the system. Means you're always at risk of coming back. Once you become a part of the system, you are always at risk of coming back. And you got a big challenge of turning your life around. And we know that. We have a 75% recidivism rate. That means that 75% of prisoners offenders who are released will return to prison within the first 3 years of their release. This system is designed to destroy our babies, and we have to be the ones to rise to the occasion and say, not on my watch. 75,000 Black women and girls missing, disappearing on a daily basis. One mother was literally told by the police department when she reported her daughter missing, do you know how many she was told, do you know how many teens go missing every day? Well, that would be, to me, the motivation to actually do something about it. You should be concerned that you have this many teens going missing. And please do not buy into the idea that all these babies are running away. That's definitely not it. Exactly, Anaya. That's exactly what I said earlier. We have to stop using Eurocentric standards for the way we judge our children. We're judging them academically. We judge them by the way they dress. We judge them by the way they wear their clothes. We judge them by their hairstyles and everything else based off of what white people expect from us. We cannot operate on a Eurocentric idea and be all that we need to be. We're not Eurocentric. We are Afrocentric by nature. And that we have a different makeup genetically, culturally, mentally, spiritually, especially spiritually. So we are not going to move the same way they move. We're not going to function at our highest level and be within the spirit of what they expect. We've got to stop demanding that of our children. But more importantly, we've got to stop judging our children based on that. We have to look at our children as our children. Not because they have A's and B's and on the honor roll and their teacher is just swooning over them because they're so well behaved and they're just so intelligent. We've got to start looking for the gifts in our children. We've got to start nurturing the gifts in our children because that's where their greatness lies, not in some standardized academic idea of what is. I'm not saying that we shouldn't seek the attainment of academic skills, but we should not make that the end all be all. Look at how many degrees we have out there that's struggling to make ends meet. We've got to start stepping into who we are, and we've got to start protecting our future by creating an environment in which they're safe. We've got to start patrolling, men. Again, I'm back at this. We've got to start patrolling areas that are target areas. the malls, the stores, parking lots, events. We need to be there. And if we see something going down, we need to be prepared to deal with it. And we need to start sending a message by being there that if you mess with one of ours, we're going to mess with you, period. That simple. That's the stand we're going to have to take. There's an idea that's been permeated throughout the corridors of American culture, and that is America is a moral country, that America is an ethical country, that America thinks certain things just don't happen in America. But the facts, when you pull back the veneer, the facts don't back that up. This is a very corrupt environment. It's just a lot of extremely wealthy people that present images because they control the narrative through media. We've got people starving. Let me explain something to you. Right here in Houston, something that enticed me and my wife to become even more involved in this whole human trafficking, sex trafficking thing. We did a radio show about a month ago, and we were there to speak on the psychological elements involved and the dangers involved and how invasive and pervasive this particular industry is right now. And there happened to be a survivor of sex trafficking that came to the show in the second half of the show that we got to meet and talk to. And some of the numbers that she revealed about right here in our city totally blew my mind. For instance, there are almost 100,000 high school or lower students in the Houston area that are classified as homeless. Just in HISD alone, which is the largest school district in Houston, there are 30,000 kids who are in school who are still classified as homeless, which actually makes them at higher risk for human trafficking. And we're not addressing the issue. You want to guess the largest population of these homeless kids? First Black, then yes, Hispanic. We have a real problem, and I can tell you because I did some preliminary research on it after I got home. Houston isn't an anomaly when it comes to this. This is happening in a lot of major cities across the USA, where students are in a situation where parents who are even working, parents' salaries simply cannot sustain the lifestyle. You cannot. I will tell you, you cannot make a living and sustain a lifestyle on minimum wage. You can't do it on $10 an hour. It would be a challenge to do it on $15 an hour. But they've got us thinking, boy, if you can get $15 an hour, you'd be good. The truth of the matter is the cost of living, because of greed and uncontrollable prices in housing, whether it's leasing, renting, or selling, has gotten out of hand. And so the average person that's under or at the poverty line is in a bad place, and housing is no longer even close to being a guarantee for people who are working. You got a lot of people in the city of Los Angeles who are working, who are living in cars, literally getting up and going to work every day, but can't afford a place to stay. And guess what? A lot of those people have kids. We got the big story about the homeless mothers in the Bay Area in California who were forcefully evicted by what looks like a paramilitary force. That's how they showed up to evict four homeless mothers and their children and their belongings. They didn't show up with a sheriff and a moving crew. They showed up with cats looking like they're about to invade Iraq. We have a real problem, and we've got to stop pretending that everything is okay. We've got to stop pretending that the illusion is reality. And I'm calling on all of us, Black men. We've got to rise up in a physical sense. We've got to rise and put our heads together. We've got to create programs. We've got to create situations. We've got to create environments. That's our responsibility. sisters, we need you too. We need you in the sense of training and teaching our babies from an early age how we're going to move. We got to come up with protocols of how we operate, how we move. When my girls leave here, they understand they are never to be alone. Absolutely never alone. They are not to be pulled or called or lured into any obscure area, and they are to scream for dear life if anybody comes within 5 feet of them that they don't feel safe. I've had to train my wife in firearms so that she is never in a situation where she's completely helpless to someone who may be bigger or stronger than she is. And that doesn't mean that things can't happen. It just says we're better prepared. And that's what we have to be. We have to make it dangerous to abduct our kids. We have to make a great threat that there is a lot to be lost when you try to take one of our kids. That has to be the message that we're sending on a grand scale. That's all I've got for you right now. Like I said, I'll come back and I'll do the whole thing that you guys are used to on this channel as far as inspiration and everything, because we need that as well. But this was just sitting up. You open your inbox and there it is. And just the heartbreak that comes across when a mother says, I've been looking for my baby for X amount of days, weeks, and I'm not getting any support or any real true responses from the authorities. You know, it's up to us. Again, as I said at the beginning of this, there's some information in this description box that can tell you how you can support the work we're doing in the community. We would definitely appreciate that because the need is just so massive in specific areas. In the areas of development and training and dealing with sexual trauma in the home, especially for young girls, which my wife and I both do. That's my wife's passion. She works with girls in homes. She works with girls in schools. She works with girls in TYC, which is the juvenile justice system detention facilities. She does that. And the number of girls who have been sexually abused before the age of 18 is astronomical. And we're not doing anything about it. We've got to address that. We've got to address it. I've been talking about that for years. And you know, we would rather try to find a way to refute the numbers than to admit that we have a problem and to deal with the problem. That has to change. The Black Men Lead Rite of Passage program, where we're dealing with young Black men, helping them reduce their proclivity to violence and criminality, also helping them now deal with mental health issues. That's something that we're actually going to make an arm. We've dealt with it, you know, periodically and sporadically over the last few years, but now we're going to make it an ongoing effort. We're actually going to mobilize. In fact, we're doing it now with a couple of cases on the East Coast in which mothers are at their wits' end, and the child is at a point where they are a danger to themselves and those around them. And this is happening far more frequently than we know, and we're not doing anything about it. And because Black men are reared to be okay and not show weakness, and they interpret getting help or saying something's not right with me emotionally right now. They equate that to being weak. They don't talk about it. So the first time you know about it, it's an explosion. And it can be very ugly, trust me. We've got to be aware. We need to know the warning signs. And for the mothers who contacted me, because you saw the warning signs, congrats. Do not ignore it. Do not dismiss it as just some kind of mumblings. When they say something that's off, and I mean, it sounds off, pay attention to it. You know, don't think, oh, that you're just talking crazy. No, they might be expressing something that they can't process correctly, and that it's really driving them. And at some point, it can push them to what is known as a psychotic break, a break away from what is their normal reality. And now you're not dealing with the person that was that person. You're dealing with an entirely different person that's seeing a reality that you don't see. And you have to understand the implications and repercussions of allowing that to happen over and over again in our young male population. So on that note, I'm gonna get out of here. For those that will support, we definitely need it and we appreciate it. But whatever happens, whether you support us or not, we've got to sit up and we've got to become active. It's that simple. On that note, I'm going to check out of here. You guys have a great day.
something out.
Here I come, ready or not. Frank Ocean made this record hot.
From a conceptual
Ye sounded better than
perspective,
Jay.
things people talk
Real
about
talk,
it as
I ain't throwing
successful.
shots. Careful who